Hello, everybody. This is Love from Above with your Sibling Spirit Guides. I'm Maureen, and this is my brother.
Hey, this is Brian. Hi, Maureen. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Brian, we're so happy to be here. If you can believe it, on this podcast, we share daily channelings we receive from star beings, ascended masters, mythical beings who really exist, and occasionally our ancestors. And today's topic is changing the way you can eat, the way you eat can raise your energetic vibration. Brian, I'm all about healthy eating and food, so this is right in alignment with what I know we both believe in.
Right, totally. I mean, I think we talked about on a past episode about how some of this stuff, but we got some new information. And yeah, this is both very important to both of us. So excited to share it with all of you.
Yeah, so the this topic was inspired from a session that came in last week, and let me tell you, Brian, when this came through. I mean, we get like so much shocking information, and this is a rather obscure topic, but I was, let me say, shocked and surprised by this one. And it's your table settings matter. Brian, let me take you back to harken back to the day when we were kids. You remember we used to have to alternate jobs, and one of them was setting the table?
Yes, absolutely. That was one of the things we had to do every day. Yep.
Yeah, and I just feel like, oh gosh, our mother and father set us up for this habit, which I have since stopped. But anyway, this came in on February 5th, 2025, and this was towards the end of a session. And they said, we want to move on to an alternative subject. The place setting of an individual table has lost its meaning of many years. We liked the days when great thought and forbearance was placed on the assembly of the eating utensils and the dinnerware and serving cups. Not that the individual place matters where the fork is in relation to the spoon. However, the thoughtful nature in which an individual ate in a beautiful setting with flowers and candles and richly prepared foods added to the overall well-being of the individual. So I'll just stop right there. I mean, it does make sense, you know what I mean? But I had never thought about this. And actually, this message came through on a day where I had gone to the grocery store in Italy and I didn't even have a plate. I just plopped down what I ate onto the bag and munched away.
So they're giving you some guidance, huh, Maureen?
Yeah, yeah. So I think I inspired this message.
Totally. That's good. That's it's good that we get this guidance and we can share everything. So yeah, I'll continue. It says um, you can augment the foodstuffs which you eat by ignoring the constant blathering of your media stations and focusing on the gratitude of the ingestion of the foodstuffs. To inhale the food without proper setting and intention provides limited benefit. We wish for you to begin to observe these natural tendencies while you engage in the practice of eating your necessary food requirements. This is another manner in which you can augment your light quotient. So, yeah, this is a good reminder for me too. I mean, I know same sort of thing. We would say a prayer before we ate, but not that you have to do that, but you have to just, like you said, set that intention um, and the gratitude for the food that you're eating, right?
Yeah, what this reminds me is I went to serve in a Buddhist temple years ago for 3 days because the monks aren't allowed to do anything. So they invite lay people in. So one of the things I had to do was chop wood and clean the kitchen and stuff like that because they spent their days in prayer and meditation. And you had to eat, you only were served two meals. The last was at 11 a.m. and the first was like a 5 or 6 a.m. And then you had to eat in total silence and just be focused on gratitude and prayer and thankfulness for the food that you were eating. So I don't know. I think that that's kind of like my model as I go forward. And I have been better. I'm sure they're happy. I know the next day after that, I went to the grocery store again for dinner, but this time I went to the kitchen first in the hotel I was staying in and requested, a plate and a fork and a knife and a napkin and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just thought this was interesting. So if I think it's interesting, hopefully all of you who are listening will find it interesting as well.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Yeah. So do you want to go on with the next topic?
Sure, the next topic is beware of coffee, tea, tobacco, and how do you say it? Analgesics? Analgesics.
Analgesics.
Yeah. So this is from October 30th of last year. It says, "Hello, we are most gladdened to utilize this vehicle for the dissemination of important information for the humans on Earth. Who are we? We call ourselves by a name unrecognizable in your primitive languages. However, we liken ourselves to an older sibling to the earthly inhabitants. We caution humans as to the addictive qualities of the foodstuffs present on their planet. These medicinal herbs were meant to be ingested, smoked, inhaled on rare religious occasions. However, now they've become daily addictive substances. We speak, of course, of your coffee, tea, and tobacco. These substances were placed on your planet for a specific purpose, which has been warped with the availability of mass consumption. We urge all humans to cut back on these horrific substances that have been taken from their original purposes and uses. Likewise, we caution humans on the popularity of using analgesics. For these too should be reserved for the most severe cases. The pain occurs for a reason. When you dull the pain, you block the reason for the pain when the pain first came into being. This, in some ways, halts the progression of the individual human. So yeah, these are really interesting. I mean, we've talked about that. I mean, I think we mentioned this. I got the guidance to cut out meat, dairy, and coffee that I had been eating. And so I've done so for it's going on probably 10 months now, and I just feel so much better. I sort of miss my coffee sometimes, but um, I really don't use it all. I mean, I'd have an herbal tea regularly, but that's about it. And I'm fine without the caffeine. And then you've been, what brought, you haven't had, I can't remember, you've been caffeine free for quite a while, right, Maureen?
Yeah, no, and it's because of my guides. So, years ago when I started working, as helping other people as a psychic, people would be like, "Oh, what's the best way, that I can, channel to or I can receive messages?" And my answer would always be food, food, food. Because they are very insistent about the purity of the food source, which if you think about it, so being a channel means that you're open to receiving information, and food is something that just courses through our body, and so you really need to stay as pure as possible. And so yeah, I mean it's been for me like I don't know, definitely a decade, if not more, that I've been no meat, no. I try not to do dairy, but since I'm traveling the world all the time, like I will make modifications, but I'll definitely never have alcohol, meat, caffeine. Um, and I rarely have sugar or dairy products. But but yeah. And then I was just last night, I was reading The Magic Presence by Saint Germain. I love that book, Brian. Do you remember that book? That's book number 2 of the I Am series.
Oh, okay. I get you. Right.
Yeah. So in there, Saint Germain says there are which is interesting. There are several things that leave a substance in the brain which must be cleared away if the full perfection of the mighty presence is to be released through the personal conscious. These are, in order of their importance, narcotics, alcohol, meat, tobacco, excess sugar, salt, and strong coffee. So it's kind of the same way. Analgesics I would put in with narcotics and tobacco and coffee. So I thought that that was a similar message.
Yeah, and
Um,
we didn't talk really about the analgesics or the painkillers. It's something that I guess I hadn't heard before, but it makes sense. And I guess for me, it's interesting because I used to get like, well, sometimes you get them too, but migraines. But I tell you, just I think meditating and just having lower stress. I don't think I've had one in years. And so I don't really ever take it, but in the past I used to take them all the time, um, for that type of pain. So, but it's interesting that they're telling you the pain occurs for the reason and to be, you know, cognizant of what's causing the pain than just dulling it. So I think that's an important message too.
I go back to Dolores Cannon, and I actually put those. It's on a note on my phone, but she used to talk about that, about how when you have an ache, a pain, something's bothering you in your body is communicating to you. It's go back to that old adage, your life is always communicating to you, and once you listen. And, for me, I always look up on Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. In the back. There's an index that she created, and it has what caused everything, what caused the situation, whatever it is, bladder infection, a headache, whatever it is, and then that positive affirmation to cure it. And so that's what Dolores Cannon said too. Once you listen to what your body says, then you can then it will go away. And interestingly, I don't know if you remember this from her books, Brian, but she said when you had something on the left side of your body, so like I think if something bothers you on your knee, that means you need to be more flexible and flowing. I think the affirmation is I am flexible and flowing in life. But Dolores took it another step further. She said if it was your left knee, it was something to do with your past. Well, if it was your right knee, it was something to do with your present or in stepping into the future. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
So
next topic is around beware of processed foods. And again, I think we've stressed this in the past, but I think that's a great message to reiterate with everyone. So September 16th of 2024, the energetic sources that you seek have not been of the highest vibrations. Remember that packaged foods automatically reduce the energy of the one creator. Um,
yeah, and again, they're giving me this message. They're giving me this message because I have purchased some, which isn't that brilliant. I have purchased some kind of packaged food, and they're like, not the best choice, Maureen. On February 3rd of this year, they gave me a similar message. The food stuff produced in many of your factories discourages the alignment of the energetic sources. These factories unknowingly reassemble the energy of the natural additives into a scrambled formulation, which can provide no health benefits. And when I think about this, you remember when juicing was so big, and I mean, I'm sure it still is big, but I remember when I was living in Florida, I used to go to this juice store, until I worked with a personal trainer who told me that like the power of the juice, if it's been something that's like been sitting in a bottle, like you really need to juice it right away and drink it. And the power evaporates if it's just been sitting in a bottle in a juice store for, days. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right. It's got to be freshly squeezed or freshly.
Right. Right. He said within 30 minutes. You
Yep.
had to consume it within 30 minutes so really that means that you're juicing yourself. You're not going to a juice store.
Yep.
So and then I wanted to pull up this Brian sent me. You'll have to go into how you got this from Reddit, but boy, this one, I'm still thinking about this message that you sent me that you discovered.
Yeah. Um, and I forget, I think it was which suburb it was, but it says, this was it sums up everything we've been saying, but had some other things that I never thought about. So it said eat organic when possible, try not to eat processed food, prepare as much yourself as possible, stick to the outer perimeter of the grocery store where, all the junk's in the inner aisles. This is what the one I wasn't aware of. We're 100% cotton, linen, wool, cashmere, or silk. Did you know the frequency of linen is 5,000 hertz? The frequency of polyester is 10 to 15, less than that of a dead body. Think about that. I fully believe this is the one of the most insidious aspects of our society. The next one is be outside and get real sun as much as possible. The sun and celestial beings are all conscious and sharing information all the time. Information downloads are being sent are much clearer without our home or buildings blocking it for the most part. And last but not least, create. This is the important part. It's how we learn to be magic workers. When you create literally anything, you become godlike and channel that interconnection to source. So there's a lot there, but I mean that the one that I was something I guess I should have thought about, but um, is the fabrics and wearing natural fabrics.
Yeah, that was something I had never heard of, but it makes perfect sense. And honestly, doesn't it feel better to be in 100% cotton, linen, wool, cashmere, silk versus polyester? The information that the frequency of polyester is less than a dead body. I mean, that is really frightening, as opposed to linen where you could be at 5,000 megahertz. You know what I mean?
Because
So,
there's so many like polyester blends now, these new synthetic blends that they've perfected that feel very soft and nice, but if it's still synthetic, it's not doing it for you. So I think that's really interesting.
yeah, and then the two other things that I found really interesting, and I've totally altered my habits because of this. So I normally go to the grocery store almost every day. And I used to always go down every aisle. I just felt like, oh, I've got to go down every aisle and check everything out. And I love the idea of just circling the grocery store because, you don't want to buy anything that's in a bag, a box, or can. And that's, 90% of the grocery store, and that's, in the interior. So that's really changed how I am. And then the last one, I think I've told you this, Brian. It's from doing these podcasts, creating these podcasts, and also my videos for my YouTube and TikTok channel, that I've decided that creating is my most favorite thing that I do. I just love it. I love creating a new podcast. I love creating a new video. And I just never correlated with the fact that when we create, we're really being emulating the one creator. And that's why it brings me so much joy. You know what I mean? So Yeah, this was brilliant and it's really stayed with me. So hopefully for all you who are listening that it stays with you as well because it absolutely makes sense, but stuff I had not been aware of before.
Yeah, I think it sums everything, all of our beliefs, But the creation is another thing that, yeah, I agree. We enjoy doing this podcast, and so that is, one aspect of creation in our lives that we are able to take advantage of. So, but yeah, great messages and all, and I hope everyone finds this information useful.
Yeah, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Bye, everyone.